The candles on my cake flickered as if they sensed something was wrong. It was supposed to be a rare night off, my birthday. Friends from the precinct had gathered in my small apartment, the table crowded with bottles, snacks, and the lopsided chocolate cake Mrs. Carter from across the hall insisted on baking. Laughter echoed through the dimly lit room, and for once, I let myself relax. "Make a wish, Pierce!" someone shouted. I smirked, leaned forward, and drew in a breath. The moment my lips parted to blow out the candles, the power went out. The room plunged into darkness. At first, everyone laughed, assuming it was a breaker or a prank, but the laughter died when a high-pitched, metallic scraping echoed from the hallway outside my apartment door. A slow, deliberate sound, like a knife drawn across metal. "Anyone else hear that?" I asked, my voice low. Before anyone could answer, the scraping stopped, replaced by a heavy knock. 3 times, measured, slow, then silence. I grabbed my flashlight from the sideboard and motioned for everyone to stay put. The beam cut through the dark as I approached the door. My birthday balloons, tied to the doorknob, swayed gently as if disturbed by a breeze that shouldn't exist in a sealed hallway. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty, except for a single box sitting on the floor. A small, square package wrapped in blood-red paper and tied with black ribbon. No note. No return address. Against my better judgment, I brought it inside and set it on the table. My guests gathered around, their faces lit by the trembling flashlight beam. I untied the ribbon. The box creaked open. Inside was a cake, or at least, something that resembled one. Frosted in pale cream, topped with a single candle already burning, though no one had lit it. The flame danced unnaturally, bending toward me. And then we saw it. The frosting wasn't sweet. It was smeared over something organic. A piece of bone protruded from the side. Human bone. A few people screamed. One man bolted for the bathroom. My instincts kicked in. This wasn't just some sick prank. It was a message. The real party had just begun, and it wasn't going to be the kind you could walk away from. The room was deathly quiet after the screams faded. Even the muffled hum of the city beyond my apartment walls seemed to vanish. The only sound was the faint hiss of the candle's flame atop that grotesque cake. "Pierce, what the hell is this?" Karen, a crime scene tech and one of my closest friends, asked, her voice trembling. She was staring at the protruding shard of bone, her hands half covering her mouth. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I pulled on a pair of latex gloves from my coat pocket, an old habit, and began carefully scraping away some of the frosting with a table knife. The smell hit me first. It wasn't the sweet aroma of sugar but the unmistakable, cloying stench of decay. Underneath the frosting was a layer of congealed dark red, sticky to the touch. Blood. And beneath that, more bone fragments, jagged and splintered as though violently broken. I'd seen worse, but not on my birthday, and not in my own home. The light from my flashlight trembled slightly in my hand. I told myself it was because of the adrenaline, but part of me knew that wasn't true. Something about this wasn't random. It was personal. Suddenly, from the back of the apartment, came a loud crash. Everyone turned toward the hallway that led to my bedroom. My heart rate spiked. That hallway had been empty moments ago. I gestured for everyone to stay back, then stepped forward slowly, my free hand on the holster at my hip. The door to my bedroom was ajar, though I distinctly remembered closing it earlier. The shadows inside seemed to ripple in the faint moonlight filtering through the blinds. I nudged the door open. The room was empty, at least at first glance. Then I saw it, carved into the wall above my desk, deep and deliberate. "Happy birthday, detective." The letters were uneven, scratched into the paint with something sharp. The white dust from the plaster lay scattered on the floor like snow. I took a step forward, and that's when my foot hit something soft. I looked down. A party balloon, one of mine from the living room, sat at my feet, but its surface was smeared with dark, dried handprints, and written across it in the same jagged style as the wall carving, "One of them is mine." I froze. The meaning hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just a threat. It was a warning. One of my guests was already gone. I rushed back to the living room. The group was smaller than before. I scanned the faces, counting quickly. Karen, Officer Daniels, Mrs. Carter, But where was Liam? My neighbor who'd been sitting by the window earlier? Gone. The others noticed too. Whispers turned to panicked voices. Maybe he just went outside, someone started to say, but I cut them off. No one leaves. Not until I know what's going on. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. An unknown number. I answered. At first, there was nothing but static. Then, a distorted, almost playful voice crackled through the line. Hope you liked my gift, Pierce. I have so much more planned. Oh, and you might want to check your window. I turned slowly toward the living room window. The blinds were drawn, but the faint outline of something pressed against them was visible from inside. I approached, hand tightening around my flashlight, and yanked the cord to open them. Outside, standing on the fire escape in the pale glow of the city lights, was Liam. His eyes were wide, glassy, and his mouth was sewn shut. He was holding another cake box, his hands trembling violently as he extended it toward the glass. Behind him, in the darkness of the alley, something moved. I didn't hesitate. I shoved the window open and stepped onto the fire escape. The metal groaned under my weight. Liam was shaking so hard I thought he might topple backward at any moment. His eyes darted toward the alley below, pleading silently for help. The stitches across his mouth were rough, uneven, almost like they'd been done in a hurry, with no concern for pain. His breathing came in ragged bursts through his nose, and the cake box in his trembling hands was stained in two places, frosting on top, and something much darker seeping through the cardboard at the bottom. I reached for him, trying to steady his arm. It's okay, Liam, I've got you. That's when I heard the creak. The sound came from above, the next level of the fire escape. A shadow shifted there, partially hidden by the edge of the building. I couldn't make out a face, just the glint of something metallic. Pierce! Karen's voice shouted from inside. Behind you! I ducked instinctively. A heavy wrench came swinging down from the platform above, missing my head by inches and slamming into the railing. The impact rattled the whole structure, and Liam stumbled, nearly losing his grip on the box. I grabbed his arm and yanked him toward me, but the shadow above was already moving, retreating upward, then leaping onto the rooftop. Whoever it was had planned this. I pulled Liam inside and slammed the window shut. Karen rushed to cut the stitches on his mouth while I pried the cake box from his hands. Inside, under a thick layer of icing, was a severed human hand, pale, bloated, and wearing a silver ring with the inscription MR. The room fell silent again. Everyone looked at me. I didn't recognize the initials, but the killer clearly wanted me to. That's when Liam finally managed to speak, his voice raspy. It was a clown, Pierce. A clown mask. Red smile, black eyes. He grabbed me outside, said it was my turn to deliver the gift. A clown. In any other context, it might have been laughable. But given the stench of blood and the panic in this room, it was something far darker. I made my decision. Nobody leaves. Karen, call for backup. Daniels, lock the building down. Our friend in the clown mask is still inside. The next 20 minutes were a blur of methodical searching. We moved through every room, every corner of the old apartment building. It wasn't until I reached the basement, a storage area that smelled of mold and rust, that I heard it, a faint, wheezing chuckle. I followed the sound, my flashlight beam cutting through the shadows. And there he was. The clown mask was just as Liam described, a painted grin that stretched far too wide, jagged black triangles above the eyes. His hands were covered in dried blood. In one of them, he held a camera, the red recording light blinking. Happy birthday, detective, he said, tilting his head. Did you enjoy your presents? I didn't answer. I circled slowly, keeping him in my sight line. Why, Liam? Why the hand? What do you want from me? He chuckled again. Oh, it's not about him. It's about you. You put my brother in the ground 3 years ago. Marcus Reynolds. You remember him? The name hit like a hammer. Marcus Reynolds, a sadistic killer I'd tracked down after a month-long spree. He'd been gunned down in a standoff before he could be taken in alive. You're his brother, I said. The clown nodded, almost proudly. And tonight I wanted to give you the same fear you gave him, piece by piece, guest by guest. I could feel the rage boiling up, but I forced it down. I kept my voice calm. It's over. Drop the weapon, take off the mask. Instead, he lunged. The camera clattered to the ground as he came at me with the wrench. We crashed into a stack of metal shelving, sending boxes and tools tumbling. His grip was strong, fueled by rage, but I managed to twist his arm and slam him against the wall. Karen and Daniels burst in at that moment, weapons drawn. The clown froze, breathing hard, before finally letting the wrench clatter to the floor. As they cuffed him, he leaned in just close enough for me to hear. "This isn't over, Pierce. There's still one more gift." We took him upstairs, but as we reached the living room, I noticed something. The original grotesque cake, the one that started this nightmare, was gone. In its place was a small envelope with my name on it. I opened it. Inside was a single Polaroid photograph, my apartment, taken from outside the window, earlier tonight. In the background, behind the group of laughing guests, was the clown. He'd been here from the start. And if his words were true, this case was far from over.